Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to have as my guest, Michelle Apples. And let me tell you about Michelle. Michelle says that some would describe her as a quirky, comical, and unconventional person, but her friends often say that she knows everyone and she never stops moving. Michelle has been involved with many industries and has led an incredible opportunities from acting, modeling, running to high events and traveling all the places. And she's got venue management, coordinating weddings, marketing, brand management, working on cruise ships, beauty industry background, hospitality, name it. She is not going to say no. It's such a diverse background, but that just makes you such a more of an asset to what you're doing today. She fell into a job hosting events and international travel for singles people. And through the varied venues, she had a chance to study multiple scenarios with singles and dating. And she wanted people to connect, and she watched them. She saw how they build valuable lifelong friendships, end up dating, engaged, married, and having children. And it was then that she discovered her passion for getting to know people on a deeper level and helping bridge the gap of connecting Christian singles. So we're going to talk about growing towards greatness, because all of the things that we just described about Michelle tell you that she is going to be able to get to know you, build relationships, and then take you to greatness by understanding who you are. So I'm excited for this discussion, and I'm sure you want to know more about what this journey was like not just from the business background, but what really led Michelle to what she's doing today from a personal level. So we're going to ask those two questions I always ask. First question, where do you live? Where do you call home?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question right now. Right now, my husband and I are currently on the road. When my friends say I never stop moving, it is very, very accurate in this season of life. We actually renovated an RV, and we're traveling across the whole United States this year. So we have been on the road for 6 months at this point. We just got married in September, and so this is our first year into marriage, and we are not stopping moving. But we have rental properties in Nashville. I'm actually from Canada. He's from Minnesota. So it's just a whirlwind of a little bit of everywhere is home.
So what part of Canada were you from?
So I'm from like the northwest coast, but I lived in Vancouver 11 years. I lived in Toronto 4 years before relocating to the United States.
Yes. So you are okay with cold weather, being marrying a Minnesota man.
Yes, thankfully he doesn't want to go back there. So no more cold winters for us.
I would be right there with him. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and when people say, "Oh, you ever move home?" I said, "Nope, nope."
Nope. I've experienced the good life.
I know. Even when I worked for UPS and there were travel opportunities, I thought, please God, don't send me to someplace cold.
Yes.
Awesome. So talk to us about this journey that you've had thus far in your life. You're a young person compared to me. But what really in all of these things that touched your life, what was that one thing that said, "Ah, this is what I'm good at. This is what I've got to do. This is the legacy I want to leave." So talk to me about what got you to where you are today.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I remember actually being at such a young age, and back then, like people would always ask me, like, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I would always say, like, "Oh, I want to be an actor," or like, "I want to be a singer." And they'd be like, "Well, why do you want to be an actor?" And I said, "Because I want to leave impact." And so, obviously, back in that day, at 4 or 5 years old, we didn't have technology that the way we did do today, and
Mhm.
so the way that you thought you could leave impact was by having a platform such as a celebrity would. And so it's been awesome to see how it shifted throughout. Like I did acting for a while and it was great for the season that I was in it, but at the same time, like I didn't feel like I was making an impact in any which way, where now the work that I'm doing is just so fruitful. You see just people's lives
Yeah.
changed right before you. You see people truly like grow so much and really just walk into like the greatness that they have inside of them. And so, yeah, I love what I'm doing now because you just get to see that you're actually changing people's lives, which is really awesome.
Very good. And it is true. I think a lot of people think, "Oh, I have to be a celebrity to have that platform." But that's why I teach public speaking, to give people their voice, because the internet, the technology that we have today, you can touch lives no matter who you are. You just have to have the good message that reaches their hearts and their minds.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what is the biggest frustration that you hear from your clients today about dating? I want to see. I'm 66, so I want to see, has it changed at all
Oh
since when I was.
man. But I think it has changed, and I think that's the frustration of it really is, we have more ways of connecting than we've ever had before, and yet more and more people feel lonelier than ever
Yeah.
before, which is crazy. And so when we think of, our parents' generations or grandparents' generations, how did they meet people? They met each other through neighborhoods, local communities. Maybe they met at church, maybe they met at college. And so the pool of people you were meeting was much smaller, but
Yeah.
people were actually connecting. I mean, now you see, and people, I just turned 35 and I know so many people my age that are just struggling to even find a commitment or a marriage, yet we have ample opportunities to meet people. So why aren't people not committing and going? And there's actually studies that show like the more options you have, the more likely you are to just not choose at all. Which is wild that we think that technology and online dating and all the ways that dating has changed would actually help us. It's actually hindering us in a lot of ways. So it's been so interesting to be in the dating industry in this time
Mhm.
because of that. Because again, like as much as I get the question all the time, like, where do you meet good, godly Christian singles? I'm like, they're everywhere. I don't know how you're not meeting them. Yet, so often people feel so disconnected that they don't feel like, even if they're online and there's literally millions of people on online
Yeah.
dating apps, yet they're still like, I don't find anyone. So it's an interesting just dynamic with dating this day and age, because I think that we are gearing more towards online dating rather than less, even though online dating isn't working in our favor as a whole. So yeah, I feel like that's the biggest struggle, is that so often we think like with online dating, like, oh, it's fabulous. We have more avenues to meet people, but it's actually hindering dating as a whole for people.
It's funny. I call it the IKEA effect. You walk into IKEA and there's so many cool things. So, and you think, if
Hmm.
I buy this, but there's something better over there, or there's something, and so you walk out of there oftentimes with nothing because you couldn't make a decision. So, yeah, the
Yeah,
IKEA
I
effect.
feel like that. Yeah, I feel like that is just like women shopping as a whole. Like you walk into a women's clothing store, and I'm like blown away. Men have like 20% of the selection. Women have 70, 80%. and you're like, there's so many choices. How do I choose? And so yeah, it's a wild time to be dating, that's for sure.
Another analogy for clothes too is you get that outfit you think when you first meet it, oh, it's going to look great on me. It's going to be wonderful. And you get it home and it's like, oh, it's not right. It doesn't fit right. It doesn't
Yeah,
look
or you wash it and
yeah.
it shrinks. You know, you wear it in a little bit and it's not so good. So,
So good. So as you said, there are a lot of options out for dating sites and things. What makes your company different? And then as you're talking about that, don't forget to talk about your app.
yeah, so a little bit about what makes us different is like we don't want to just be profile swiping left and right. And so I just don't even focus really on the dating aspect, but really building community. Because like our parents and grandparents' generation, they met people in different communities they were part of, whether that was in college, whether that was in churches, whether that was in neighborhoods, you know, maybe workplaces. And
Mhm.
so we really focus on the community aspect more than dating, which some people love, and some people are like, nope, I really want to meet a spouse. And so I'm coming to meet a spouse and like focus, and they focus on dating. But so we do a lot of different things that not just create that community culture. So we do retreats and in-person events, and then we have our online app as well. But we really foster those connections through different online events where we host prayer nights, and we host, you know, my husband and I are leading a small group starting next week, and just to really allow those connections to form in a more organic way instead of
Mm.
feeling like you're swiping right and left, because it becomes more human. Like people become more human when you actually get to know them. Like so many times in my life, I look back and when I was in close quarters with someone and was able to get to know them, that's when I developed feelings for them, not because the surface level, like, oh, they're attractive on an app. Well, you might not be attracted to them in real life, like when you have a conversation, you know. And so I've seen that fruit really comes from getting to know people better. And so we really try to foster that community feel, to not just have this swipe right left mentality of people being disposable, but really it's putting the human back into dating. And I think that's so important nowadays, is because, you know, if I look at even all of the people that have met through our community or through different services I've offered, they all say, like, this is not someone I would have picked in a crowd to be my spouse. And I can say that as a newlywed, even about my husband. He was not someone I would pick in a crowd. But when I met him, I had a 3-date rule. And so I always challenge people to do this, because so often people aren't themselves on a first date. And again, it's that disposable, like, oh, it was just a first date, I'm just going to dispose of this person, rather than actually let me get to know them and see, like, do I actually like them? Do I actually connect? What is their character like, morals, values? Like,
Mhm.
is there an alignment here? And I can tell you, if I did not have that 3-date rule, my husband and I wouldn't be together today, because I would have wrote him off. He was the nice guy who would have been a great friend, you know? And I said that on our first date. I'm like, oh, he'd be a good friend, but I don't really see anything else here. And so I think by creating those community and allowing those conversations and connections to happen organically, it just allows like that awkwardness and weirdness to come out of dating, but also to bring the human back into dating.
So this Sunday, I celebrated 45 years with my husband.
Wow.
I met my husband.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it really does emphasize what you were saying, because I met my husband really on a blind date. I went to a company picnic with my friend, and at that picnic was my husband's neighbor. And my husband's neighbor invited us to go water skiing. And
Wow.
he said, but my friend has to come and drive the boat. I did not tell this guy that I knew how to drive a boat. I figured, I don't know that I want to spend all day with this coworker by myself.
Yeah.
So I met my husband's mother first, And then my husband, who was
Wow.
not going to go because he thought, I don't know these people. He was shy. And so then we had a 2-hour drive where I got to observe. And I was really kind of the silent observer in the car for 2 hours. And we had a wonderful time as a group. And then I went with Vicky and the guys for the next 3 months. And I thought, I'm dating all these other people. I like this guy. I think I want to move forward with him, but he doesn't seem to really think the same way. And so we became friends. We were friends, I was just one of the
Mm-hmm.
gang. And so there was no pressure that he
Yes.
wasn't pressured as trying to date me, and I wasn't, he knew I was dating other people, and there was no pressure on that. But it's after 3 months, he finally asked me out. And after that, he asked me to marry him. And I said, maybe.
I love
because,
that because I
be,
feel like that should be how it happens is, because you already have a foundation. You know the
mhm,
person, you've seen them in natural elements, you've seen them around other people, you can kind of vouch for their character. Where now I think we rush into dating expecting things to be romantic with
mhm,
someone we've never met before. That's
yeah,
crazy to me. Like people are like, there's no sparks. It's a first date. You don't even know this person. How do you expect that there's going to be sparks flying on a first date when
yeah,
you don't know anything about them?
yeah. So 6 months later, or not even six, at that the following Valentine's Day, he asked me to marry him, and I said yes. And then I had a 1.5 year engagement. So further strengthening that foundation that, we became best friends. And he saw the good, the bad, and the ugly in that 1.5 years. And so now we're here 45 years later. So, I think your point of not rushing is important. Your point of not needing the romance. I think, especially as you get into the 30 years and the 40 years being married, romance is not the driver. It's
Mm-hmm.
liking that person and having a deeper love. And I think that's things that people should be thinking about whenever they're meeting that person, that it's not just all about the romance piece.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because that's often what I say to people is like in 30, 40 years, I'm not going to look how I look today. So if I'm really just like looking at someone being like, wow, they're attractive and I'm attracted to this person, well, attraction is not going to sustain that 45 years in marriage. Like it won't. Like if they don't have character, if they don't have morals, if they don't have values, if you're not
Yeah.
walking in alignment together, like that's what we need to look for. And so often because online dating is so surface, that's all we're looking for is, oh,
Hmm.
is this person attractive, rather than when I spent the 3 dates with my husband, now husband, getting to know him, I was able to see like, wow, he has such a pure heart, wow,
Yeah.
his character is amazing, wow, he's so honest and like refreshingly honest, and like, wow, he's so gentle and so kind. And those are the things I'm like, wow, that will sustain a lifelong marriage, not the
Mm.
surface level. Is this person attractive? Does this person make a lot of money? Do they have a lot of material things? Like that stuff won't last. Like money comes
Yeah.
and goes, things happen. And I just think of like, is that person going to show up for you when you're at your lowest of lows? And
Hmm.
surface level, if that's all you're looking at, that's not going to sustain you at your lowest lows, either of you. And
Right.
so really encouraging that community so people can see that about each other is like when you get to see people in different elements and different conversations, different communities, you get to see how people treat other people. Like over time, someone can only appear to be something for so
Yes.
long till the truth comes
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
And
That's
so
true.
I think we try to rush dating so much instead of just, hey, let me just spend time getting to know who this person is.
Uh, I want to get on to embracing the single season, but I also wanted to just piggyback on what you said, because oftentimes we let those around us, friends, family, influence. Well, why would you date him? Because they're looking at maybe position, looks, all those things, and not the connection that you two may be having.
Yeah, and I think it's important to let some people in for sure, but it's also important to be protective. Whereas like my online audience, everyone in my community didn't even know who my husband was until we got engaged. I mean, it was helpful that he wasn't on social media or anything, but I was very protective about what voices I allowed in. And for good reason. I saw friends of mine who were like, almost like put walls up to him because things seemed like they were happening really fast, but yet I had so much peace about it that I was
Mhm.
like, no, 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 I can't allow this to come in and distract me from the peace that I'm feeling in my relationship. And so yeah, we kept it really protected and really only share with people we trusted and knew that like who would champion us on the way. And I think, yeah, so often, especially with social media, we want to tell everyone once we went on a first date. It's like, whoa, 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 like relax. It's a first date. You don't even know each other yet, you know? And so I think it is important to be protective of
Mhm.
what you're building while you're building that foundation, at least. Because it's so easy to get swayed by other people's opinions of the situation that they're not in the situation. They don't know. And I've seen that and heard that, and I've experienced that in other relationships, and it didn't end well. And so, definitely important to be protective when it comes to building a foundation with someone.
So when I read about embracing the single season, the first thing came to mind to me is, oh my God, I'm going to be 30. I have to get married. I have to, and it's a different time. So what, what goes through your mind whenever you talk to your clients about embracing their single season?
Yeah, I loved my singleness, and so I love the topic of singleness and really embracing because I did that. And so I can talk on it because I didn't just dwell on my single. I think so many people like they almost rush to get into a preferred season, realizing that like once you get married, you don't get to be single again. Like God willing, you don't get to be single again. And so really taking each season with, okay, how can I make the most of this
Mhm.
season now? It's not a matter of like, okay, I have this desire for marriage. Now I just have to shove this down and like embrace my singleness. No, no, no. You can desire marriage, but still make the most of where you are. And I think it's so important because I learned so much in my singleness. And I love that when my husband and I did come together, we were both happy. We were both whole. We both had our own things going on. And so when we came together, it was really complementary to each other. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm just so desperate to get into a relationship that now like I'm trying to get him to fulfill all these areas of my life. Well, no, no, no. All those areas were already filled. And then he got to come in and almost like overflow into that. And so that was so beautiful. And that's what I encourage is like wherever you are at in your singleness, that is where you will be when you get married. Getting married doesn't fix the things in your life. Getting married doesn't, like your husband or your wife is not going to fulfill those areas of your life. If you're miserable in singleness and trying to rush to get out of there because you're lonely, well, you're still probably going to be lonely in marriage. A person can come
Mhm.
alongside you and like do and help you in a lot of ways, but they can't fulfill those areas that you're longing for different things in your life. So if you're lonely, like maybe you need to find community before you get married and make
Yeah.
sure like you're not trying to, have someone almost complete you. Where it's like I would rather have someone compliment me than complete me. I want to be whole on my own. And so when my husband and I got together, it was so beautiful because we both felt like coming together, it was like an inheritance. Like we both gained so much because we were both happy and healthy and whole, and we did the work in our singleness,
Mhm.
and we dealt with anything that from our childhood or from previous relationships that we needed to deal with. So we weren't taking all this baggage in. We had both traveled and we had seen things and experienced things, and now I mean we get to come together and experience so much together as well, and that's amazing. um
Mhm.
and my mom always said when we got married, she was like, I never thought you'd settle down. And I was like, Mom, I am not settling down, I'm settling up. Now I just have two extra hands, 2 extra feet to just run harder and faster to what I feel like I'm called to do. And that's what I want for every single person, is like they're already running and someone comes along and now you get to run faster. You don't have to like come together and now work on all the baggage you didn't work on in your singleness, because marriage is just an amplifier of whatever's already going on. Is like my husband sees me at my worst. He sees the triggers, he sees the things that happen or come up for me. And so if I haven't already dealt with them, I might take those things out on him, rather than now I can actually communicate where those things are coming from and be able to move past them. And so, yeah, I think just embracing your singleness, enjoying it, like doing things for yourself, becoming the healthiest, most whole person you possibly can. And that doesn't mean that healing's not always going to be there, because we've never arrived. We never get to perfect.
That's
We're
right.
always in progression, but it's like, if I can do majority of the work when I'm single, it's like that's less work I have to do when I'm actually married and now have to deal with somebody else's baggage and things that come in. And so, yeah, I think really just embracing the season you're in, respecting, obviously, if you do have a desire for marriage, that's amazing. But that doesn't mean that you have to just sit around and dwell, why am I not married yet? Why am I not married yet? It's like, no, just go and take advantage. Do the things you want to do. I have a lot of people that are like, well, I don't want to buy a house because I'm not married yet. Well, buy the house. I mean, it's so
Yes.
beautiful when,
Yes.
yes, like I was so beautiful when my husband and I got married, because coming from Canada, I couldn't buy property because I was going through immigration, but he had 2 properties and I had all this cash flow and businesses. Now we come together and we have properties, cash flow, and businesses. That's incredible. And it was like, but we both came in with that, and we didn't hold ourselves back, or we weren't financially in a ton of debt. It's just like those things in your singleness that help prepare you to have even a stronger marriage when
Yeah.
you walk into that. And now my
Mhm.
husband and I are like, okay, let's conquer the world. Like, what else can we do? What else can we build? And so it's a beautiful thing when we truly like embrace our singleness and just do the things that we want to do. Don't wait or put your life on hold waiting for a season that you don't know when it's going to happen.
And so as we walk through that journey, our next season is the season that you have of being husband and wife together and building and fostering meaningful relationships and connections. And for me, I didn't have kids for 9 years, but my plan was only for 5 years. But I wanted 5 years for the two of us to experience life as a couple together, to figure out each other, to be able to not
Mhm.
have any other distractions, so that we could really strengthen our relationship. And so by the time it came for me to have kids, there was no regret. Oh, I'm going to miss out on these
Mhm.
things. It was still as if we were dating for those 9 years, as opposed to all of the wonderful things that come with children that also can bring stress to a couple, to marriage. So how do you advise your clients to have meaningful connections and relationships as they move from dating to being married?
Yeah, I love that question, because I think so often we don't actually sit and like step back and ask ourselves why. I think that we're so labeled in society of like, by this age you need to get married, and by this age you need to have children, and by this age. And so often we take that on when we don't even know if we want those things, or like, have we actually taken inventory of ourselves to say, okay, but what is like long term? What makes sense, or long term, like what do I want this to look like? I think so we think so short term, of like, well, I'm 35, so I have to rush into marriage and I have to have kids and I have to do this. Well, no, you don't have to. It's like, what's your why? And I've had so many conversations, especially singles, where they're like, well, I feel like I'm at the age where I need to buy a house and I need to freeze my eggs and I need to do this, but I actually just really want to go travel and see new things and experience. But I don't think that's responsible. So I should just go freeze my eggs and spend money doing that and I'm like, yeah, but what's your why? Like, are you doing this because the world has told you that by this age you have to do this? and like whatnot? Or are you doing this because like that's actually your heart's desire of doing that? And so I think we need to just sit back and take inventory of what we actually want. Like for you, you're like, hey, I want 5 years to really connect with my husband. That's amazing. I mean, I feel like in my relationship, I mean, we're living in a box. Our first year of marriage, we're getting to know each other and we're building that foundation real well. And it's been awesome, because I'm like, I think that we don't even see the fruit that's going to come from this season of
Yeah.
really being in tight quarters. We're together 24 hours a day. We both work remote. Like we're traveling. We can't really go and see our friends and make those connections outside of marriage. We're really investing in our marriage in this season. And I don't think we'll even see the fruit of that for years to come. But I think one day we will look back and be like, whoa, that season really helped create such a solid foundation for all that is to come. Because like you said, like there's so much that comes with having kids. There's now stress. And like if you're in a relationship where that foundation isn't strong, I mean, if you think about building a house, the foundation takes the longest to build, and then it goes skyrockets from there. But if you don't have that foundation, or if that foundation is cracked, the whole building's gonna fall. And so it's like, if I look, okay, I want my marriage, I don't want to just be married. I want my marriage to run the long, long way, like I want to be married until the day I die. How do I make that happen? Well, I need to build a strong foundation. And so it's like not just looking at like, okay, well, the world tells me I have to have babies by the time I'm this. And then, so I'm going to rush in and in 6 months, I'm going to be pregnant. It's like, no, no, no. My goal is to be married at 80. When I'm 80 years old, I still want to be married to my husband. What does that take? That takes building the foundation in this season. And so it's like not just focusing on the here and now, but really thinking like even generationally, like, okay, if you're having kids, well, I want my kids to make sure to be that we have a strong foundation in our marriage so that we don't have to deal with broken families and our kids having that trauma and the things that now they're going to carry on into their lives and their marriages. And so it's like really thinking that like generationally, even not just so short term that we're just looking at the here and now and like we have to do this, but really like taking ourselves almost out of that moment, looking at the big picture. It's like, well, no, I want generations to come and be healthy because I really invested in the season I am in now with my husband, that we're strong, that there's nothing that could come and break us. And so now our marriage lasts the test of time. And then you have kids, and then your kids see healthy relationships and healthy marriages, and then they're able to now go on and have healthy marriages, and then their kids. And so it's so often I think we're just looking at like right here, right now, and that's all we're focused on, when really we need to be thinking of the big picture, because there is so many people that come from broken homes. I'm one of them that comes from, I didn't have a father growing up. He abandoned me very young in life. And it's like I saw the effects of that, and I had to do the healing from that so that I didn't get into those bad relationships that would have ended in divorce. That, now and I think back, even if I was to get married 10 years ago, and when people were like, oh, when are you going to get married, and praying over my marriage. And I'm like, I'm not even close to getting married because I have a lot of work to do in order to make sure that I can actually sustain the marriage when it comes, not just get married to get married. And so I think when we just look at like just the issues that even are going on in the world, I mean, they say like over 50% of marriages end in divorce. I don't want to be that statistic. And so how do I make sure that I'm not that statistic? And that's to really build that foundation.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. The time has flown by. We'll definitely have to have future chats, but and see how we can collaborate together. But for those that are listening and think, I just really need to know more about Michelle and her app and how she might be able to help me in my journey through being a happy single to being able to find your lifetime partner as I have. you're going to be able to take a screenshot of the slide that I'm going to share. If you're just listening, I will give orally the information, but if you want to just go grab a paper and pencil real quick to be able to take that down. If not, if you're driving and can't do that, all this information will be in my show notes on YouTube, Vicki Netling. So please subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. Her website is thechristiansingles.com. Again, that's the christiansingles.hub.com. On Facebook, you can find her at Miss Apples 2. In LinkedIn, Michelle Apples. On YouTube, at the Christian Singles Hub. Instagram is Michelle Apples, and her podcast, which you do want to go and subscribe on YouTube to be able to watch, an Apple a Day podcast. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle now to talk to you about the different things that are on her website, resources, and how to connect, and any social media that she spends more time than others that you would want to definitely check out the things she has there and connect. So Michelle, it's all yours.
Amazing. Well, yes, I'd love to connect. Like she said, you can go to our website at thechristiansingles.hub.com. You can find out more about our app on there. If you actually go to thechristiansingles.hub.com/podcast, just by listening to this podcast, you can get 7 days free trial on the app, which is amazing. We have 3 retreats coming up so far. We have one in the fall in Michigan. We have our Friendsgiving retreat in Pennsylvania in the Poconos Mountains. We have a April retreat in Florida, and so many other things that you can come to, attend, be in community. We also just launched our local hub. So we have event hosts in over 15 different regions across Canada and the United States. So we're bringing on local hosts to create little mini hubs in your area so that you can be in person with other Christian singles as well. So we're super excited about all of that. And the best place you could probably find more information is Instagram. You can follow me directly at Michelle Apples or at the Christian Singles Hub, and you'll get all the information from there.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, it has been just a pleasure chatting with you today. You just shared so many great stories and really practical advice for folks, giving people some good insights as to not worrying so much about if they are single and haven't found anyone yet, but also the important things about once you do find that someone, to be sure that they're that someone and really nurture that into that meaningful connection and relationship. So thank you for being an awesome guest.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
And as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Netling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Netling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.